Hi, cities. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. And thank you all so much for the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So, I will be talking about a lot, but you all already know that some people has already been picked, to work with a certain kind of people. And when you look at the people that were picked, you definitely will see that some things are not right, but it is what it is, right? I don't think we expected anything better or something, coming from the person, right? And with all the misconduct and all that, at the same time, appointing people with misconducts, right? Why all these are happening, I am going to ask this. What happened to black men? You all remember that a certain group of men were all out during the election, in fact, before the election, since last year, okay, since this, okay, last year, this year, right? They've really been all out campaigning, going around, traveling around, and all of a sudden they came up to tell us that during Jim Crow, that black people were better off, right? And that caused a lot of problem. Now the truth is that majority of them, or they actually thought that they would be picked, right? But one thing I am going to assure you is that they are still scared of you. Because you roll with them does not mean that they will stop being scared of you. What they do to me, they will also do it to you. For those that think they are immune, they are not. You are not immune. And I am asking, what is your position? I mean, Byron Donald, Tim Scott, and all that. I love it for you guys. Let's get into this.
Okay. This video is for black men who voted for Donald Trump or campaigned for Donald Trump, like Tim Scott here, Florida Representative Byron Donalds, and Texas Representative Wesley Hunt. Here we are over a week from Election Day, and these are some of the public announcements that the next president of the United States has announced as being part of his inner circle and his cabinet members. And there will be more announcements made, I'm sure. But let this sink in that before there is one black person's name on this list, Donald Trump has named as his pick for Secretary of Defense a Fox News host, Pete Hegseth. Before naming any black person to his cabinet positions or inner circle, he has picked Matt Gaetz to be the next Attorney General of the United States. Matt Gaetz, a man under investigation for child trafficking. Latinos for Trump can already say they got a cabinet position when Trump nominated Marco Rubio here for Secretary of State. All that buck dancing I've been watching over the last 107 days of the election, and black men, you all voted for Donald Trump, and the best you all could hope for is to be picked as an afterthought going forward. Yeah, you can't make this up. May the ancestors judge you all harshly. The rest of you all have the day you deserve. I never thought the leopard would eat my face. Hey, 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 I never thought. Hey, what's up? How y'all doing? Real quick, it seems like this cabinet is shaping up quite nicely. Nicely. Um, just a few things I would like to point out, especially to those 22% of black men who supported this cabinet. This Rocky Raccoon is Dr. Ben Carson. Yes, doctor, as in MD, medical doctor Ben Carson. And yet and still, has he been tapped to head the Department of Health and Human Services? Oh no, oh no. The president thinks so little of Dr. Ben Carson and his medical degree that he bypassed him for the Department of Health and Human Services and nominated Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a known medical conspiracy theorist and anti vax activist. I never thought the leopard would eat my face. Hey, 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 I never thought. Moving right along. And in the wake of the fact of how relevant federal jobs are to the black middle class, and according to available data, the United States government, particularly the public sector, is considered the largest employer of black people in this country. The president-elect that 22% of you black men voted for appointed Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy over a new government agency that they are creating, the Department of Government Efficiency, a department dedicated towards cutting government spending. And part of that is going to be headed by a man whose idea of cutting government jobs involves cutting 75% of federal jobs. And how does he propose doing this? You can't make this up.
If your social security number ends in an odd number, you're out. If it ends in an even number, you're in. There's a 50% cut right there. Of those who remain, if your social security number starts in an even number, you're in. And if it starts with an odd number, you're out. Boom. That's a 75% reduction. Then literally stochastically. Okay.
Oh my goodness. You can't make this up. If somebody's in charge of the Office of Department of Government Efficiency who thinks that government employees are split evenly by the last number of their social security number. You can't make this up. But regardless, and also middle-class white people that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump, that policy is going to affect you all also, even though, like most government policies, when it comes to cutting jobs, it's going to disproportionately affect black people. Yeah, and when it goes south for you all, as it will, this is who you all need to call. Yeah, Ghostbusters. But all is not lost. I mean, not all the cabinet posts and appointed positions are filled. There's some, consolation prizes still on the table. Just didn't care about you within the first 2 weeks after the election. I never thought the leopard would eat my face. No, no, no. I never thought the leopard would eat my face.
So I really don't know how to tell y'all this, but he's gonna get it right this time. He's not about to make the same mistake he did the first time. As someone who wasn't born in the US, I was kind of wondering at first, like, why more people aren't, like, for real freaking out about this, until I realized America's a very young country. I can tell y'all are not having the flashbacks like I am. Like, I literally have not been able to get my shit together. Like, everything in my body and in my mind is genuinely telling me to enjoy these next 6 weeks. Frankly, I'm not in a position where I can get off this ride. So yeah, let me walk you through what's probably about to happen. We're just gonna do some light reading together. The important thing I want you to remember is don't panic. People have lived through this. It's gonna be fine. So you may be wondering why I have Trump's cabinet behind me right now as I'm saying oh, he's going to get it right this time, kind of menacingly. Let's talk about the mistake he made the first time. There's going to be a longer breakdown of this on YouTube, so give me till the end of the day today to post that, but that will be up. And also, if you haven't heard, I'm starting a podcast with the Sovereign Woman and Quinn Veer. I'm going to tag them both below. It's called The Audacity, and there's a link in my bio. You can find it on any platform. Make sure you go ahead and check us out. Leave us a 5-star review, subscribe. We are so excited to see y'all there. Okay, so if you're watching this on TikTok, I had to cut out part of the breakdown because the video was getting too long. But basically what I was talking about with the Trump admin picks for this year is the only people he has kept in his cabinet are people that during his last administration had allowed him to absolutely walk all over them and blame them and throw them under the bus, and they were basically still willing to very much lick his boots. The other people he's appointed to this administration, the reason I'm saying he's not going to get it wrong, basically everyone appointed here is either a complete lackey doormat or somebody with direct interests in pleasing Trump in this administration, in their interests to be somebody that he likes, and he only likes people that say yes to him 100% of the time and nothing else. That's going to be important. Here's what I actually think is going to happen, or some version of this. Don't freak out, it's going to be okay, but Here's what I legit think this man is gonna do. The reason I said earlier that this whole situation is giving me intense flashbacks is because I was born in Ukraine months after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And Russian politics were very important even in our country because of the nature of the Soviet Union and because of how basically everything Russia did would impact our economy and economy of like the surrounding nation states and things like that. Also because we didn't really have like too many of our own broadcast channels yet, so we would get broadcast channels from Russia. For that reason, everyone was kind of involved in the politics of this. Now, I was born, I was like 2 years old when this happened, and the subsequent like discussion of it, the subsequent politics of it is giving me flashbacks to now. This is the Russian parliament. Basically the White House, the Russian White House. The reason it looks like this on the top is because it got bombed. And you might be thinking, wow, that was probably a terror attack or some kind of horrible mutiny uprising, got its hands on weapons and decided to destroy the government, whatever. No, the person that bombed this building was actually bombing his very own office. And if you don't know who this is Boris Yeltsin, or you may know him as Boris Yeltsin. But yeah, he was technically, I guess, a dictator in Russia for like an awfully long time. And he actually hand-selected Putin to replace him. So it wasn't a change of regime. It was more of like a handing over of the power. Funny enough, this was also Russia's first democratically elected leader. And last. And last. So yeah, when you hear Trump saying that was going to be the last election you're ever going to vote in and stuff like that, just know it can happen as easy as this. Here comes that light reading I was talking about. This article published in 2018, so add 6 years. So 30 years ago, last night in Moscow, Russian President Boris Yeltsin ordered tanks and airborne troops to shell and storm the White House, or the Russian parliament, the Supreme Soviet building, to suppress the opposition trying to remove him. Go ahead and file that away. This article is more about declassified documents that kind of show how America aided and embedded this coup. Because the very next day, Bill Clinton called Yeltsin and was like, you did a great job, bro, like keep it up. That was used to basically legitimize this man's dictatorship, right? Like America's the superpower. And America had like at that point been working with Russia to sort of like, we'll get to that. But basically the defense minister was like in on it. He was like, let's bomb the parliament. Let's set off this beautiful fire, because he was a bootlicker. Because he was a bootlicker. He didn't care about what's right and what's wrong. He was like, yeah, let's burn this motherfucker down. You don't want to leave? I don't want you to leave. I've been doing great. So yeah, let's do this. So now, mind you, the year is like 1993. This is 2 years after the dissolution. And Russia, being sort of the aggressor of the whole thing, having sort of ruled with an iron fist, was finding itself in some very difficult economic circumstances, as other countries didn't want to trade with it and things like that. That should be ringing bells already, okay? If the bells are not ringing, let's ring them, okay? US has been a global superpower. Like, this is right after space race and things like that. Like, this was after the Soviet Union had emerged along with the United States in the 70s as a global superpower. So people had jobs, like STEM was a huge thing in Russia. Like, I don't know if y'all know this, but like STEM was a huge thing. There was women in STEM, there was men in STEM. It was everybody was a fucking scientist, like everyone was a doctor, and boom, like breadlines. You know what I mean? Now, what else is gonna set off something like that? Starts with T and ends with tariffs. Because if the price of things goes up 60%, a lot of people are gonna feel that same exact pain. So basically, what Clinton and Yeltsin did was, under the guise of we need to bring democracy to Russia, they agreed that it would be okay for Yeltsin to dissolve the parliament that had been trying to hold him accountable and kick him out essentially of this presidency. In Clinton's first phone call to Yeltsin immediately after the latter issued Decree 1400 dissolving parliament and setting a date for early elections and a constitutional referendum, the US president expressed his full support and accepted Yeltsin's assurances that there would be no more bloodshed and the reform would move faster now that there would be no obstacles. US support for Yeltsin remained unwavering all through the confrontation and after the Russian president issued the order to storm the parliament after initial violence on the part of the opposition. On the morning of October 4th, Muscovites awakened to the awful sight of the burning parliament building, the White House. They had defended against the putsch in August 1991, just a couple years prior, where Yeltsin had stood on a tank and led the democratic forces. So yeah, the bell should be ringing at this point as well. January 6th, what you should be connecting with this. This is something I can see Trump doing, given the fact that there are probably going to be protests about the tariffs. There's a lot of his policies I think are going to turn out to be extremely unpopular. I think given this move and events like this, I think are actually going to be sensationalized and used by him and his proponents to justify like extreme measures on the White House, including things like, oh yeah, we had to open fire on it to prevent something worse, or like some sort of like monumental crisis that would put all of democracy into question, etc., etc., and then be used to institute like new reforms and give emergency powers to the president, etc., etc. So I do not think that it is outside of the realm of possibility that Trump eventually pulls a similar tactic where it's like, oh no, we've been attacked, and like now Trump needs to have like these executive powers and these superseding powers to deal with this crisis because government was in on this, the Democrats were in on this. I don't know what they're gonna say, but they're going to use this event or an event like it to sort of like sensationalize and justify doing something fucking crazy when it's time for him to be voted or removed out of office, which I think would be probably sooner even than 4 years. I think as soon as these tariffs go effect, a lot of people are literally going to riot, I hope. And his supporters are about to find out that he only encourages them rioting when it's in his defense, when it's in his favor. When they come out here to riot again because they can't afford shoes, clothing, gas, groceries, bread, when they come out and they try to do this again, he's going to mow them down. I promise you. And he's going to use it to say that there's a crisis in this country, the government needs to protect itself, or an attack is going to be staged on the government. Allegedly. I don't know. I'm just saying it's something that if I were inside of like his fucked up little head, that's how I would be thinking. On October 5, the day after the bloodshed, Clinton called Yeltsin and congratulated him for his handling of the situation. He did not ask about the loss of life. And he was basically lauded by the US government for staging an attack on himself and then using that as an excuse to dissolve the entire government and no longer be held accountable for anything. Basically, at this point, it's like a full-blown love affair between Clinton and Yeltsin that goes on for a very long time. Clinton was deeply committed to Russia's transformation to a democracy and market economy, as well as to its full integration into the Western world. Another top U.S. priority, though, was to safely manage the post-Soviet regathering of nuclear arsenal back to Russia and to help it dismantle and secure weapons and fissile materials. Given this setting, Yeltsin, with his resume of a democratically elected Russian leader and a defender of democracy during the coup of 1991, right when he basically busted into the White House, seemed like an ideal partner who could deliver on all U.S. priorities. According to Pe0ple, some of Clinton's advisors were concerned, rightfully, about Yeltsin's unwillingness to consult and compromise with the parliament and advised Clinton to focus on principles and process, not personality. The president, however, was committed to Yeltsin as a personification of the revolutionary change and responded that this was a zero-sum thing. The perception only intensified during Yeltsin's final showdown with the Supreme Soviet in the final days of September 1993. Basically, this article is saying that the situation, like this entire mess, grew out of the extreme personification of US-Russia policy. So, like, out of the fact that they were fucking buddies, right? Mind you that Trump and Kim Jong-un have been, like, in very loving ways corresponding via letters and I'm sure other things for years now. And their relationship is very, very similar to this. And so my call is that this is going to happen with the US and China. Here's the other thing, but also from the black and white picture the Yeltsin camp presented of the political situation in Russia, painting his opponents as fascist and unreformed communists. In fact, it was the same Supreme Soviet that was elected in the lauded free elections of 1990 that elected Yeltsin, its chairman, and that granted him emergency powers to implement the radical economic reform in October 1991. Basically, under the guise of like economic reform, they were like, yeah, this guy can just, we're going to have to give him the power to do whatever he needs to do in order to get this country back on track. Like our current checks and balances do not account for this. He's going to need to have some kind of supreme emergency powers. Watch for that, because that's going to happen. That's going to precede this. As the year 1993 progressed and the political confrontation in Russia deepened, the U.S. administration dealt exclusively with the Yeltsin camp and came to regard the opposition as the Russian interlocutors presented them. But most importantly, the stakes were very high. Yeltsin was a good partner who was willing to play on U.S. terms. So the U.S. basically saw dollar signs, right? They looked at Russia and like all this nuclear, like fission reactors, all this like weapons, whatever, and they saw dollars. And so they were like, well, this guy's willing to play ball with us. He doesn't really care if his country like benefits because he's only seen dollar signs too. This is going to be great. Basically, they were like any other alternative, even especially I would say, democratically elected, was deemed unlikely to be as cooperative or reliable. The Clinton administration was therefore highly invested in Yeltsin, and as Ambassador Pickering says, he told Stroke Talbot, "You've got no other choice than to support Yeltsin and hope that the December elections would be free and fair, wink, wink." Not all actors on the US side share that opinion. Okay, I had to grab some food and come back because I had no idea we'd be here that long. If you're still watching this on TikTok, what are you doing here? Go to the YouTube. I'll see you there. Mwah.
So this is all I got from this video, and I have been saying this. One thing I have learned over time is to listen to Black women, learn from Black women or Black people in general, right? And it is really working for me. It is working for me. If you all remember from the onset, when I found that a lot of them, those conservatives, were all out there campaigning, doing all sorts, traveling and all that. All of a sudden, we heard something like Black people were better off during Jim Crow, right? You can imagine. And I know about Jim Crow, right? And I knew a lot that happened during Jim Crow, right? But at some point, I think I actually became very much interested in knowing more about Jim Crow, right? And I think I brought the video here. Literally, I was crying, knowing the things that Black people went through during Jim Crow. During Jim Crow, at first I was like, okay, the segregation, the found in schools and all that. Not until I started going deeper, I found out that Black people really went through it during Jim Crow. And a full grown man, I don't know, but Byron Donald is just whoever he says he is, and I am not arguing. Like, whoever he says he is, that is what he is, because heaven knows that he is not on a good record when it comes to history, right? And after seeing that, I was like, I do not know what will make somebody come out and say something like that about his own people, about what his ancestors went through. One thing that I found out about all these people that come out online, especially the conservative, one thing I have learned about them is that they can do anything or say anything to please the master, right? And I really don't know how much you are being paid, right, to do things like this. But in the end, you all are the karma is almost there. I don't know where they are going to fix them, or what they are going to do, or the things I don't know. But you all can see that he's been calling out his cabinets and all that, and those coons are nowhere to be found, because sincerely speaking, they are absolutely coon. And if you think they are not, you are also right. I don't know if I am going to say that I am disappointed. I am not disappointed because they have shown us who they are. To the extent that I remember the last campaign that happened in New York, right? I think Byron Donald is from New York, his homecoming and all that. He went back home for the campaign, and when he was introduced to come on stage, right? Guess the music they started playing for that man. They started playing Where Did It Says song. Picking cotton in the plantation. For those that still remember, you all remember that I brought this video here last week or last 2 weeks. If case not, I can't remember the exact date, but it is there, right? Now, I've been saying this that some of you cannot be picked no matter how hard you try. Why? Because they are scared of you. You think when they said that they feel frightened when they see people that look like you, think you are exempted. Baron Donald, Tim Scott, all of you, you are not exempted. You are also part of it, right? And if you think because You roll with them, you parley with them, and all that. For the fact that they don't talk anything good about people that look like me, you think they are going to talk good about you? Of course, they will never. These are the things you all should learn, because you cannot be dining with the devil and you are using a short spoon. Absolutely, you should have a longer one. That is to tell you that some people are doing politics, but they are not intelligent. Sorry to use that, but that is what it is. So I am really wishing them well. And as you all can see, the cabinet and the people, anybody that is telling you, okay, there is also, okay, I am going to say that there is no need to freak out. Whatever that will happen, will happen. One thing I am also going to talk about is that Black people coming together, building a community that will work, right? Community that will work. Excuse me. With that community, we can move mountains. We can there is nothing we cannot achieve with it, right? But you see this cabinet and all that, the president and all that, it is really going to be a tough period. But like I have been saying all this month and years since last year, right? Nobody is serving democracy. Whatever happens, happens. Thank you all and see you all in my next video. Bye for now.